Okay, so here I am back with another video. This is, I guess in my file listing, this is going to be page 23, but I think it'll end up being 22. I think when I did the video for page 8, I talked about how it was had the potential of being cut, and sort of having done a read through of the pages I've gotten just to see how everything flows. The page really doesn't fit. It just sticks out as very weird, and it's just, I don't think it's going to work in this story, so I've decided that I'm going to cut it. 10:08, which, oops, and I'll end up saving the idea of revisiting the future scenario for another book. Um, so let's get a word bubble. Edit, paste as new layer. I'll bring you up a bit. Alex is. Oops, let's caps lock that. Oops, Alex is so mad at Jack. Alex is so mad at Jack. Whoops, Control Z that. At this point in the story, it's Jackson is Jackson has gotten obnoxious and toward Alex. He's kind of crossed a line, but Alex, because he's bigger, for some reason Alex is backing off on really fighting back. He goes running to their father, who will confront Jackson, but he too just sort of backs off. It's like he stops short of forcing Jackson to do the right thing, and he ends up, and it's like at the point where like, even David is like capitulating to Jackson. Um, let's see. Oh, where am I? Paste as new layer. Of course, because we found out earlier in this piece, we saw, or maybe is the last piece, we see Allison sharing what the real plan is going to be, what her long-term plan is going to be. So Aiden's having fun with it all, watching Jack and Alex go at it. And of course, because Jackson's sort of focusing on Alex, he's getting left alone. Control C. So it's for the end of this part, we're going to transition to sort of the next phase of our plan. Whoops. I told you this was going to happen. Let's see. This is where it's going to transition, so we're basically going to do a page where these two are going to be basically talking about everything that's been going on off page. Oops, edit, undo. This is going to be one of those instances where we violate the show don't tell rule, because frankly it's going to be a lot of little stuff that gets clumped together that we can just kind of fast forward through without slowing the story down by just having a page of talking about it all. And two, it'll give us like the character interaction between Aiden and Allie. We get more of them like hanging out and being friendly towards each other. This page will kind of serve to show you that, like, despite Allie sort of pulling away from Aiden since she started junior high a little over a year ago, that they're still like somewhat close. Heading on. Okay. Let's see. We just kind of put these where they look good. And that looks good. And now we'll create our layer from which to carve out our black border. Layer to image size, fuzzy select, edit, cut, edit, paste as new layer. And there's our black border. And to get that angle, I had to take out a wall and some of the pictures, so we'll put those back in. This was the wall, and there's the wall. Let's see, what do we want? He's already. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. And I can't exactly have him like raising his arms up because he's against the desk here, so. Let's see, we'll edit and paste that. Oops, come on. Select none. Okay. I told you this was going to happen. Um, you know what? Let's save that for another panel. Okay. You know, it struck me a while ago. And I don't. It's like always pops up when I'm in the middle of something, but let's see. Control C that, and we will go edit paste. I think it kind of struck me a while ago, and it's how I've it sort of guided how I see sort of these stories. Is that it did strike me that the Shrimp of the House universe represents, I think, sort of the world you'd like to live in. Edit, cut that. I mean, it's let me see if I can kind of put this to words, but it's basically like, here's a family that has its problems. They have their fights. Just like anybody else. The kids don't get along all the time. They act out, blah, blah, blah. But, like, at the end of the day, everyone kind of recognizes their faults. They'll at least admit what's wrong. And, it's sort of like old episodic TV where everything is, like, right with the world at the end of the episode. That's kind of how it is with this universe. Maybe David doesn't change when he realizes he's been neglecting his wife. He kind of takes his wife for granted, and they have their fights, or like, where the kids might realize that, like, they do in fact like each other, no matter how much they say they don't. There's like some recognition, at least there's some recognition when they come together that, what am I doing? Okay. They at least recognize their faults. There's it's like, no, nobody acts like, well, no, it can't be me, it's got to be you. I'm not the problem here. It's like in this family, like, David recognizes he's got his faults. He realizes, like, he's got to work on some things at the end of some of the stories. This is the world where maybe people don't change per se, but they'll at least recognize that, they're part of the problem. There's no denial. And it's sort of like at the end of the story, whatever goes on, they can get over it because the issues are sort of dealt with. Whereas I think in the muscle growth universe, that to me represents reality. And what am I doing? I'm talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing. But where, that represents reality, where, like, at the end of the day, issues don't always get resolved. There are, things things happen that just can't be forgotten, forgiven, um, put in the past. At the end of the day, things that stick with us, things that affect us, things that make us who we are, because we might fight to overcome something, but we don't necessarily we can't necessarily succeed. So, like at the end of My Twin No More, where they sort of get everything out on the open. At the end of that story, Brody can't quite forgive his brother. Too much has, it's like too much has happened to just say, maybe we were wrong, let's put it in the past. It's at the end of that story. Whoops. Okay, so I'm sitting here talking and not paying attention to what I'm doing. Okay, so let's try this again. Select shrink. Oh my, what happened there? Um, okay, so I'm talking. What is going on? Okay, there, I've got my border. I just wasn't seeing it. Like at the end of the day, like, it's they get everything out in the open, but it's not quite all right. They can't fix the problems that easily. Or you look at, I think, Transforming Tyler. Um, both characters came out of the foster care system. They've got family issues. There's sort of family issues. I think I can't remember off the top of my head if I sort of revealed in that story that both of them had their parents die, or if I sort of left it open. Maybe one of them was taken away from their parents, but it's the idea is they grew up without their parents, without their family, and that's something that like just can't be fixed. It's just something they've got to deal with and live with. um, Friends forever. Rusty's got a physically abusive father, while Elliot's mother is verbally abusive and alcoholic. And at the end of that story, the only solution is that both kids are taken out of the house, out of their houses. There's no, it's not, while it's a happy ending, that while it ends on a happy note, it's really not a happy ending. It's a dark story. It is a dark story. It's reality. It doesn't get fixed. It just gets kind of swept away. And I think that's what the muscle growth universe to me is people trying, people have to deal with the problems and overcome them, whereas this is sort of just the fun. This is how the fun, this is how you'd like it to be. So here's all this story. This story in particular, has like Allison playing a rather sinister prank on, it's going to end up being a sinister prank on the middle brother, on our middle brother. It's already creating problems with Jackson and Alex, but at the end of the day, this will be okay. It's they'll get over it. Jackson. I suspect Jackson is going to realize what a jerk he's been, and I don't know if maybe, but he'll probably apologize, but this could end up actually bringing like him and Aiden closer together because Aiden's having fun with the situation. That they end up they're on friendlier terms even at this point in the story. This the events of this story aren't going to tear this family apart. Oh, shoot. Okay, I'm gonna have to redo that picture once it renders because I need to tighten the shot up in order to fit it where I need it to. I think I hit render too soon. Um, and that's not to say one universe over the other is better. It's sort of like I really, I do enjoy like sort of that tortured aspect of the muscle growth universe where the characters, are dealing and overcoming their issues, and I think that's, I think if like with the two different, I know the two different genres end up kind of being different. The like the macro micro community and the muscle growth community aren't, have a little bit of crossover, but they are two distinct communities. And it's like I like the macro my and I guess it represents sort of what I like about the two communities is like I like micro macro stuff for being fun, like the Shrimp of the House universe is. But I also like what I like about the sort of the muscle growth is those themes of overcoming, of transcending, overcoming odds, that sort of thing. It's sort of each one has its themes that are just like fun and not maybe not necessarily fun, but like are interesting to write. Let's see. Then he locked Jack out, so couldn't use the bathroom this morning. I don't know if this is going to work because I'm basically basically just repeating what happened in the previous page. Um, okay. And basically, for the idea is she's supposed to be doing something with the movies, so I got lazy and just reused one of the pictures from previously instead of sort of staging one for the sake of looking different. Let's see. Edit, cut that, select none. Let's see. Da, da, da. Trying to figure out what I want to do. I'm not sure I like this, but I may leave this. I don't quite like this line, but I might leave it in just as a placeholder for now, and then change it later on when I can when I'm thinking a little more clearly and not like splitting my thoughts between keeping this entertaining and working on the um cut, select none, edit, paste it as new layer. Well, I guess this line serves to show that he's intentionally subverting Alex's um, attempts to get back at Jackson. Maybe that's the purpose it serves. Edit, cut. Of course, like if you've been reading with along with this particular series, we already know that like these two had their moments of brotherly love. At the end of it, in the story, Aiden's bully like when Jackson takes it upon himself to get back at the kid that is tormenting Aiden, and then at the end you have them sharing ice cream, which is so unlike them. A moment that's like so unlike them, but shows that at least there's like some feeling between the two of them. Let's see. I think, and here's the problem I run into frequently is it never fails that I seem to work the characters into a corner of a room or against the wall of a room, and, and then I get stuck with camera angles because suddenly I want to do angles that don't work with the walls. Which is why when I create these sets, I make sure that the walls are either separate pieces or um, textured different. So, in some cases, the houses I construct are one pieces, and I'll differentiate the walls as separate surfaces so that this was the not the right. This is the what right wall? Yes. Okay. I'll do them as separate surfaces. Uh, so like I can, if I can't remove the wall up here in the scene pane, I can come into surfaces and select the particular wall. I'll have the particular wall defined as a separate surface, and I can um, come over to the opacity and make it invisible that way. Actually, let me. I can show you real quick. Let's take this one. So if we take the right wall over here, that wall, if I go in the surfaces and the default, I can make it, or not, the wall. There we go. I can make it invisible. The default is the outside of the wall. So I can do that if I don't have it as a distinct prop. But, here I am again. I've got them in a corner, so now I've got to take pieces out. And now we gotta, I want to do this angle, but I sort of want her looking a little more straight on than like that. So I'm going to come in here and start. I gotta find the PC is in pieces, so now this speaker. Okay. And then the monitor can come out. And what is that thing? Oh, that's what is it? Disk. Um, painting 3, I think. Okay, yes. Okay, so that gives me the angle I want. And now let's get his hand down so it's not in the scene. I don't really need to do a full posing of him because at the end of the day, he's going to get cut out. So all I need to do is enough to keep him out of the scene. And I gotta make sure that the desk isn't going to be seen. So I gotta bring the camera angle up. In other words, not seen, but I gotta make sure that you can't see that it's not there. I've got to, I've got to position the camera to kind of cheat the shot. Whoops. And before I hit render, let's make it look like she's talking. Da, 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 da. No, that's gonna look weird. Mhm. Make her look down so it looks like she's looking at the monitor. Okay. Now we'll hit render and find a word bubble. Oops. Uh, Sorry for that for a moment. I just accidentally unplugged my laptop, so. Ta, 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 ta. Well, I think it's time for the next part of my plan. It's time Jack starts to learn his. Ah. Okay. Oops. This might be a little too straightforward. I suspect this whole page is going to get a rewrite in at some point in the revision phase, but for now, this dialogue will serve as will serve as a placeholder. Paste as a new layer here. Okay. Because I think we all deal with like issues in our own lives that maybe not be may or may not be as bad as some of the ones like I've portrayed, or they might be worse. Oops. See, and there goes Aiden. And I think for me, the muscle growth universe sort of is, again, it's like sort of, the themes over there are sort of like, in how how you deal with them, how you overcome them. Where no, like in this universe, the shrimp of the house, it's kind of like this is how you'd like it to be. You kind of wish those issues could, be dealt with and overcome. It's at the end of the day, hence the world you, whoops, hence this being the world like you'd like to live in, the world where the issues do, aren't really that bad. But then again, the muscle growth universe is fun in that it sort of features characters overcoming, and I think that's something we all would like to relate to, is the characters that actually have to deal with those problems. But it's also fun to think that, like, maybe they could just be, you know um it'd be nice if, like, they could just be forgiven. We could just, like, forgive and forget. Something, I don't know. Okay, where's the wall? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to do is sort of fast forward the scene, which means we're coming out of her room. So I can turn the furniture in her room off. I'm going to put it on for Alex's room. I think I need the kitchen and living room too. And let's start putting Aiden and Alex into the clothing folder to make them go away. And I'm going to need Jackson. And let's see. Clothing. Jackson's clothing. Jackson's. I think. Is it the boxers I want? Fit to Jackson. Of course, I gotta make sure the new clothing is in place before I take off the old clothing. Or we'll probably get YouTube upset for showing nudity, even though there's really, like, no genitals on these characters. They do look very weird without clothing, but um, uh, but when I tried to take the first shrimp of the house over to Smashwords a year or two ago, I censored out all the nipples, and they got upset because I was showing David's butt crack. So go figure. So but then again, not that I can't say I was, like, ever on Tumblr, but I was seeing the controversy over them getting up. What did they get upset over? If you even showed male nipples, So you couldn't have like a guy at the beach or they get upset. That's kind of where we are in society today. We're heading back to like the Victorian era where where you're not allowed to show your elbow. Why, she's showing ankle. Well, I never. you know, that's kind of the funny part is where we're heading. Although maybe it's more of the reversal where you can cut it's like as a society we can show like girls getting skimpier and skimpier, but the guys have to cover up more and more. It almost feels like sometimes in society we're going backwards as far as like sort of the liberation of things. And I'm trying to think, what am I not even sure what I'm looking for here. I thought it was in fabric, maybe. Yeah, here we go. I think I've used that one. So how about this one? Yeah, okay, that's passable. And I'm not even sure we're gonna see this much. So, whoops. I want him, not the boxers. So I could be wasting my time retexturing the boxers. We're gonna put him in this room. And since this video will be going up after this part is released, I'm going to assume that you've read the part before watching this so that there's no confusion as to why his stuff is in Alex's room. um, let's see. 180. Well, let's start zeroing out the body parts. Let's delete keys to reset positions. Okay, no. And no, it's not. It's going to be Z, right? Negative 90. Negative 90, yes. Because all these new beds that I'm using, I modeled myself. And even though I'm a stickler on being exact with sizes, for some reason the beds still feel a little small when I put them in the scene and try and put characters in them. So we're going to kind of cheat that by having him lay on his side, and we'll just sort of have him almost curled up in a ball. Whoops. This... Okay, let's... Okay, almost curled. Yeah, this works. What the heck? And that didn't... Um... Now we'll get him down onto the bed. Since I'm going to be draping the blanket over him, it's not going to matter that it's not really going to matter that he's actually sitting through the bed because the blanket's going to be covering it and you're not going to see that in the story. So, but still, it's got to look somewhat natural. Oops. Let's see. You know what? I'm going to turn off the limits on the shoulders so that I can just twist this around some more and bring the arm in. Come on, where is? There we go. Da, da, da. Okay, is that passable? That's passable. Okay. Let me just close the eyes. Actually, no. Zero these out. The bed, furniture. This is Alex's room. Not group. Jackson's bed. Let's take the blanket off. I'm gonna unparent the bed. And I thought, okay, so I'm missing something. I gotta import from pieces and boy blankets. And I'll bring this in. I'll pop this into Jackson's bed, and then we position it 0, 0, and oh, no, wrong one. Delete blanket. This one? Yeah, okay, this is um okay. So with the blankets, we use Daz's D-Force engine to make it look lived in. So I've got to clear the simulation. Oh, okay. So 0, 0. And then bring that down, right? Yeah, okay, just over him. And make sure it's... Actually, that might work. Okay. So, now, to make the D-Force simulation run a lot quicker than it otherwise would, what I'm going to do is take Jackson and then come into File and send him to Hexagon. And it should open Hexagon. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to open up another copy of Daz Studios, and oops, wrong one, this one. Okay. I'll just move it over here so I can differentiate it. And here's where I wait for it to import Jackson, because he's a very poly-heavy. Because the people are poly-heavy figures, it takes some time to get them. Unless... Oh, shoot. No, because I've already got it open. It's sending him here. Okay, well, actually, this shouldn't be... Actually, this won't be a problem. So we find... Okay, so there's the model. Yeah. Okay, no, great. Okay, so now that I've got Jackson, I'm gonna then, let's see if this will work. Shoot. Okay, you know what? Let's close this one. Would you like to send changes before? Actually, let's see yes and see what it does. I want to create a prop. Let's see what it does. Ah, yes, okay. So the idea is by sending him over there and bringing him back, it turns Jackson into an object instead of I can do it as an object in the shape he's in now. So if I put Jackson in clothes, oh, and that's the that's right, he's naked, so we gotta kind of watch it. But so that's the Jackson figure, and then what I'll do is save this as a scene subset. I've got to come into my file folder and then pieces, and I'll just overwrite the file. Do you want to overwrite it with this file? Yes. And then I will unselect everything I don't want. And what I want is Jackson's bed and my Jackson prop. We'll accept that. Then we'll come over here, open, I go render, shrink the house 9, files, pieces, and we will bring in boy beds. And since I don't need this anymore, let's close you. No. No. And I think this one is on a... Okay, close. Would you like to save? No, no, no. Okay. Jackson's bed. What the heck? Oh, because I've got to go to frame 1. Okay. So here's the bed setup. I'm going to... Because I don't need them, I'm going to delete the nightstands just to make this easy. Also, I'm going to... Okay. So when I come back into the file, I've got to remove this pillow. So I'm just going to delete this pillow since I don't need it. Okay. And so now we're ready to come into simulation settings. This blanket already has the D-Force modifier. It already has a D-Force modifier, so I don't need to add one. But now I'm going to simulate, and then we're going to wait. We're going to wait for this to drape the blanket over him in the bed. And this gives us that, hopefully will give us that lived-in, like, look. Chances are I'll have to do this a few times and end up having to manipulate the blanket a little to get it to look right, but this should give us the look of him sleeping under his blanket. And let's see what that looks like. Let's close this so I can see better. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let's clear it and then move it down a little bit more. So hopefully, I'm going to try it again. Hopefully, it's the thing is like it won't react the way you want it to with the bedposts here, and I want it to not cover his head. So the idea is, what will be the compromise? Okay, it's okay. So it's going to avoid the bedposts, and I think we've got it. Right. Okay, that works. Um, okay, so to fix this, we'll just increase the, I think it's the X scale. Um, oh, actually, and then we'll raise it a little bit. There you go. And that looks good enough. That's passable. So what I'm now going to do is save this as a scene set. Where are we? My library, not my library. My render library. Shrimp of the House 9, find the file folders in pieces. We'll overwrite boy's bed again and go yes. Actually, no, hold on. I'm not thinking. Let's unparent the blanket. Okay, so I'm such a numpty here. So, file save as scene subset. This will be boy blankets. Yes. And then we will save just the blanket. And it will save it in as the D-force. So what we do is we add in the boy blanket, and then I can get rid of not that one. Jackson's bed. I can eliminate this one, and there he is. Since I don't need the figure, let's delete the figure and bring, the object, and we'll bring Jackson the figure back. Unparent. Okay, and the boxers are going to poke through because I didn't have them before, but side to side, let's just see if we can bring... Oh, that's right, and I've got to get rid of that pillow too. Since you're not going to see him naked under this, let's just turn off the boxers, and where's the bed? Jackson's bed, pillows, and it is this one? Okay, we'll make that one invisible. Actually, that's good. Let's see, what else can we turn off? Just start. Leave his mouth open a little bit. And I think it's time for. Yeah, okay. Okay, let's open the door. Doors, Alex door. And then I am going to, if you remember from way back in some of the first videos, um, we ended up saving this preset of Allison holding the camera, and I inadvertently left the size changer in her hand, which works out because I can just load her into the scene and remove the camera, and I've got her holding the size changer without having to set up the figure. And yeah, it's I have like since I got the idea to sort of make these videos for you guys, I do have an idea of that I'd like to sort of do sort of a separate series showing me modeling some simple furniture in Daz's Hexagon. I know a lot of people like Blender because it's also free, but I I've honestly tend to find I've found that like for me Hexagon has been um, just a little bit easier to use than Blender. So I thought it, it's like since I'm doing videos, I thought it might be fun to show like how easy it is to model simple objects as a beginner. Because even I'm like I wouldn't consider myself anywhere near an expert at like actual modeling. So but it's one of those things like you see how easy it is to do some basic stuff. Like it's like a lot of this you end up doing. You end up more willing to do this on your own when you see how easy it is versus like thinking it's some unattainable that only like experts can do. Okay, and oops. So I think in like the last year or so, I've really gotten to modeling a lot more and more of the furniture rather than like acquiring the models third party from sites like I think what is it? I think Turbo Squid is one. If you go to Turbo Squid, you can find a lot of free models if you don't want to shell out model money. Daz, is always running freebies. And there's a site called Share CG. I think Renderosity has some free stuff, but it does. I do find it like interesting creating my own stuff sometimes. Because there's times where a lot of times you just like can't find exactly what you want. So instead of settling, you can make it yourself. Let's see. And that's what I do with the houses too. Is I sort of, whereas I think when I originally did this particular house for the first shrimp of the house, I sort of I basically just used basic primitives with a high poly count and then delete the polygons where I wanted doors and windows to be. Whereas, like this particular set, I've redone it in hexagon in order to lower the poly count on it. And I've gotten to where like now all my buildings are created independently and are created in hexagon so that I can kind of fine tune a lot of what I want instead of getting stuck in these square boxy rooms. I can make them with a little more character. Okay, so here's the question. I don't quite remember what she was wearing. So what was she wearing? Okay, no. So I'm gonna make this easy, and instead of trying to recreate this, what I'm gonna do is over here in my other instance of Daz, I'm gonna open this the file I saved for the house at night. And now this is going to take a while, so I think I'm going to make a time cut here rather than have you sit through the 5 or 10 minutes it'll take to load this. It'll be, it'll be like the TV cooking shows where it's like we've already got the roast. We're ready to put the roast in the oven, but here we've got another one already cooked and ready to come out, so you can see it. So I'll cut out here. Okay, so I grabbed the outfit from the other file rather than recreate it. I've loaded it here, changed the lighting to indicate night. Now we're ready to render the next image. Number 12. Grab a word bubble, come over here, and edit, paste as new layer. Boy, I can't wait. This is gonna be good. Um, in this while being sort of Aiden's off-screen reaction, it also serves as sort of like a subtle Control C that, edit, paste as. It's sort of like a subtle message to the reader to keep reading. Keep reading, guys. This is going to be good. Almost like a subliminal message. Yes. But I think at the same time, it's going to be sort of a false flag as far as this part goes. Not the story overall, but it's sort of like the first time we see her coming into the room. It'd be sort of like this build up as to what you're expecting is going to happen. And then when he wakes up in the morning for the next 2 pages, the last 2 pages of this part, it's going to be like an almost nothing happened kind of scenario, just like before, where where it's like what she did just creeps up. And I think what's going to be fun too is because the way this will unfold will seem like it violates the rules that were already set up for the size changer. So it's one of those things that like you got to make sure you keep reading to find out what's going on, rather than like, oh my god, that's not canon. That's not. So do that. I I do like doing that sometimes, like messing with the established rules. But on the flip side, like once I sort of like unveil what she's really doing, or everything she's doing, your reaction could be, well, that's a little complicated for her. Like, what 12-year-old is going to go through all that trouble? Okay, why is this taking forever? Oh wow! Oh boy, I can't wait. This is going to be good. Come on. It could be taking issues because I'm going back and forth between the two versions of Daz. Oh, there's my picture. Okay. Hmm. Okay. Um. Okay. It doesn't want to open the picture. There we go. Or it could also be because I've got two versions of the same resource, the same large file open. That it's like it's the two together are tying up my laptop's resources. So I may just have to close the scene of the other one rather than ignore it. Hmm. That's okay. So actually, I don't like that there, so we're gonna move that over here. Okay, there we go. That's one of those cases where the position of the bubble just bothers me, so I'm gonna fix it. Okay, so now we'll give this layer a border, layer to image size, edit, cut, edit, paste as new layer, and we go. Select, invert, select, shrink, okay, edit, cut, and select none. And there's my border. Merge it down, and yeah, let's close this one. Do you want to save? Actually, cancel. instead of closing it, I'm just going to clear the scene. So if I need to come back and do some more work, I don't have to reopen the program. But now, for the last picture on the page, I've got to find the field, wherever it's parked right now. And, oh, come on, visible, there we go. Let's put it around the bed, actually. And of course, one of the things that I didn't bother doing that would have made sense, but probably otherwise wouldn't really notice or care, is that if she's encompassing the bed, it really should be growing with him. So now let's see. Actually, what? Let's just scale the whole thing, and then I'll decrease the y-axis. Right there we go. Okay. It's not the x, right? X, yes. Okay. This way. And I think I'm gonna tilt it. Okay. Looks good, right? Okay, so renumber that to 13 and render. And this is just going to be a blank panel, so not much going on. Let's save that file. Save. Since during the break I've already saved it as page 23, so I don't need to do the save as portion right now. And that is clear. So yeah, it's like this portion of the story, when it moves into Jackson, sort of recaptures that slow growth confusion of the very first story, or the slow shrink confusion. You know, that whole that whole like dealing with it 1 inch at a time kind of feeling from the first story. Except in this case, like, he doesn't really know what's going on because, as far as everybody's concerned, the size changer has been thrown away. And here's my picture. Yeah, I guess that's why that last one took so long, was because it didn't like so many resources tied up with the other instance open. Open as layers. Layer scale 34. Okay. For a second, I was afraid that picture was going to look was not going to fill the panel. Okay, that fills the panel just fine. So we cut, select none. Okay. Layer that to image size, fuzzy select, edit, cut, select, invert, shrink, yes. Invert again, and cut. And there's my panel. We will save, image, flatten, file, export, page 23. export. Okay, now let's go take a look at it. This is my video folder where all these videos end up. Pages 23. Okay, well, maybe while we're waiting for that, we'll park. Okay, well, let's see. Alex is so mad at Jack. I told you this was going to happen. He was up all night talking in his sleep about how he's going to get Jack back. He tried to keep Jack out this morning, but I let him in. Hee hee. Well, I think it's time for the next part of my plan. I think it's time Jack starts to learn his lesson. Oh boy, I can't wait. This is going to be good. So it's here you see this, and the idea is you're going to think that she's shrinking him down to a really small size. But then when you come back to when we go into the next page, you see he still looks pretty much the same. And I think what I'm hoping to do in 2 pages is to sort of have that realization that he's just not quite as tall as he was the day before. And then that'll be sort of the cliffhanger, hopefully, which will sort of set up the confusion, the like search for the attempt to rationalize it, etc., etc. But that was page 23, which is likely going to be page 22. And I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.